Hey everyone, welcome back to Tactical Magic. This is Molly Mandelberg, your host, and I have a special guest with me here today who has an expertise that I think many of you are going to be excited about. So one of the ways to grow your business, one of the ways to reach more people is to start thinking about hosting events, whether that's a workshop, whether that's a one-day event, whether it's a 3-day banquet style event, or even like super integrated retreat experience. It can feel really overwhelming to shift from just serving your clients one-on-one to expanding to big events like that. So I have an expert on the line with me today, Marsha Battee, and hang tight, we'll be back in just a sec. It's not just about mastering technology. It's not just about brand or messaging. It's not just about making more money. It's about showing up in a big way so your people can find you. This is about bringing your most wild and authentic self into the hustle and grind. Welcome to Tactical Magic, a business strategies podcast for the warrior goddess entrepreneur. Awesome. So Marsha Battee is an event and retreat planning strategist for visionary entrepreneurs who want to create awe-inspiring experiences for their clients. From ideation to day of execution, Marsha is an expert in all aspects of development and management, whether it's a small, intimate gathering or a high-end, multi-day conference. Most recently, she hosted the first annual Black Nurses Week conference, a 3-day event for which she secured a dozen speakers and $25,000 in sponsorships. Wow. Welcome to the show, Marsha.
Thank you, Molly. I'm so excited to be here, and I can't wait to share some tactical magic with your audience.
Yeah, I love that. So tell us a little bit about how you got into event planning and management in the first place.
Yes, it actually started several years ago at UCLA. I was a program manager. That was my official title, but it was a glorified title for an events planner. So I started back then planning small and large scale events, hundreds to up to about 1,000 people for the medical school at UCLA. So that's where I really got started in event planning. But I've been in hospitality for quite some time before that, working in large luxury hotels before that time as well. But that's where I got started. And then I took a detour. I got accepted into nursing school and decided to cut my event planning short. Went on to nursing school, became a nurse, did all good things nursing, still consider myself a nurse right now because I'm working in the field as we speak as well, like moonlighting as a nurse right now, and started really looking into the online entrepreneur industry in that space and really became intrigued with the work and knowing that you can serve people through the online space. So there I started blogging in nursing, lifestyle, travel. I started coaching my own clients, nurses in business and career aspects. And then I started hosting my own webinars, virtual and live retreats, and really just enjoyed it. And then recently, I hosted Black Nurses Week conference. And right before that, a few years ago, I hosted this small little impromptu sort of speakers retreat at this co-working space that I was so thrilled to be a part of. And I realized this past summer and working with the Black Nurses Week conference that I actually really love retreats, event planning, and that's my real zone of genius, working behind the scenes, the operations, the nitty-gritty details of event planning. That's how I found my love, and it's something that I'm moving forward in and hope to do for a very long time.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah, there's something, I think anybody who's been to an event or a retreat, especially a multi-day experience, there's something really special that can get created in a space where like-minded people are gathering for an extended period of time. And it's not just what's coming from the stage, it's also the culture and the community that can get created in the audience and in the lunchtime hour and in the in-between zone. That I've made some of my best friends in my life from attending events like that, and like keep them in my life because they're on a similar path. And you know that that's true usually when you go to an event like that, that's really in aligned with your mission and your vision. The people you meet there are going to be sort of a different like version of people than the ones you might come across in your everyday life. So it's so worth doing. And I know personally, I've hosted and assisted and helped put on dozens of events since I started my business. So lots of experience being in the back of the room and helping orchestrate big offers and registrations, and even just the setting up of the room before an event like that can be a lot and overwhelming. So I'm curious, because I think the people who want to lead an event like that or who have dreamed of it might just be scared because they don't know quite what's going into it. And they know that there probably are a lot of details they're not aware of. So what are the first things to keep in mind when you're thinking about leading an event like that? And how do you know it's time?
Yeah, several things, and everything you said, I echo all the statements you made about the purposes of events. And there are several things that you need to look at when you're planning your own event. Now, if it's something that you plan to do by yourself or with a team, your own team, you're going to want to, one, plan very far ahead. So even if it's a one-day event where you have you as a speaker or a couple of other speakers, even if it's a one-day event, you want to at least give yourself about 6 months planning time, because there's so many things that you're going to discover, because event planning is not in your zone of genius usually. If you're a coach, a health coach, it may not be in your zone of genius. So there are going to be things that come up that you're not going to expect. So you want to give yourself a lot of lead time. So at the very least, I say if it's a one-day event, 6 months. If you're going for the 2-3 day all-out events, you want to at least plan a year ahead if you can. Now, don't get me wrong. You can definitely plan an event a lot sooner than that. I've done it. It's just a lot more work. And if it's not your wheelhouse, you may want to, number two, get some help. So that is going to be very, very important in terms of just looking at the logistics, because you're so busy in your own business, working for your own clients, doing what you do best in your own industry, that you won't probably have time as a coach who's, coaching people in other aspects of their lives with event planning. So getting help and getting support is actually key. Third, I would say budget accordingly. So everything you pay for out of pocket, or you intend to pay for out of pocket, you want to put it in a budget, whether you use, a Google Excel sheet or you use some fancy financial software. You want to make sure that you're putting everything that you intend to pay for in a Google Sheet or some type of tracking, because when it comes time to pricing your event, you want to make sure that you're taking into account everything that you've paid for out of pocket with your business or just from your business. You want to make sure that your fees are covered. You should never host an event and your fees aren't covered. You should never host an event and your costs aren't covered. So those are some of the 3 top tips I can give. I can give others, like some of my favorite would be thinking about events that you've really enjoyed in the past that you've attended yourself. Take some pieces from those events and maybe incorporate them into your own event. Also, start small. Maybe start with a one-day event. Maybe start with a half-day event. See how you go. Maybe start with a small one-day retreat and see how that goes. Another tip is keeping it in the same city or a similar city to where you are. That will help with logistics. And my very most important tip is serve breakfast. a full breakfast. So from anything from danishes and cupcakes in the morning to your full bacon and eggs, because you're going to have different people who require different needs of nourishment in the morning. And the last thing you want them to do is wake up, at their hotel or retreat center ready to go to your event, and they have to search for breakfast. So those are some of my top tips.
That is epic service to get breakfast. I've been to a lot of events that don't serve breakfast, and I probably would have shown up earlier or been happier to be there if I had had breakfast.
Right. And it's so detrimental when you show up and you don't know they have breakfast, or you don't know that they're not planning to serve breakfast. And so, within an hour or two, and your stomach starts growling, you're hungry, you're no longer paying attention to what's going on stage, right? You're in your phone looking for the nearest Starbucks. So that's one of my top tips is just, always serve breakfast, always budget that for your clients. Your clients will thank you and you will have some happy clients on your side.
Awesome. I love that idea. So there's a lot of ways, like you said, one of the biggest things to pay attention to is tracking what you're spending on the event. And then, of course, making sure that it's not putting you in the hole. So making sure that there's a way to monetize the event or get paid back for the event. So there's a lot of ways to do that. I mean, just from what we've talked about so far, there's one is charging for the event itself, so that people paying to show up are actually covering the costs. And that has varying degrees of complexity, right? Because if you get a room for 100 people, but then you only sell 50 tickets, and then it's like, okay, wait, we need to get a smaller room. There are aspects of that to be aware of, which is another reason why it's great to plan in advance. What are some other ways that monetizing events can happen other than just straight up ticket sales?
Yeah. And just to go back quickly to what you said about what if you plan for 100 people and you only have 50, show up. And that all comes down to knowing your audience, right? Knowing who's engaged in your audience, knowing who is engaged in your content. So you can better estimate and sometimes surveying your audience beforehand. And when I say survey, not only asking them, are they willing to come to an event or want to come to an event or see an event such as what you're planning to put on, but actually asking them to put some skin in the game and putting down a down payment to do so. So you can have some great numbers and have a more accurate picture of the numbers. So other ways that you can monetize an event, you can think about vendors and sponsorships. I used to do that at UCLA in my role. I used to bring in large sponsors who would, not only put down, get a vendor's booth, but they would also put down hundreds of thousands of dollars just for sponsorship so they can have their name top of center of the event. So vendors, sponsors, and vendors as well. When you look at vendors, think of your complementary businesses in your industry. Say, for instance, if you are a sales coach, but you are not so well versed in technology of building websites for clients. Maybe you have one of your business besties who does that for their own business, come in and host a vendors table. Mm-hmm. And so it not only benefits you because you're providing more content to your audience, but you're actually being helpful to your business bestie, and you are getting a truly mutual beneficial relationship with your industry leaders as well. So thinking about those people who could be complementary to your business and having them come in as sponsors for tables, having their own setup at your event, things like that. Other ways that you could monetize your event is provide a limited release of the recordings. And you may see this a lot in the online space when you're hosting webinars or workshops online, that sometimes that host will open up, a registration for people who can attend live, or for the people who did attend live and just want to go back and review the material. So they'll open it up for about 2 weeks. And, sometimes you'll see it sold for maybe $197 for, 2-week access to the recordings of the event, depending on what your event is. Now, if there's more content and more value out of that event, say, for instance, they're learning how to really increase their income, you may want to charge a higher price for that. So limited recordings are another way that you can do that. Back of the room sales. And I have a love-hate relationship with back of the room sales. I've been to events where, the main purpose of the event is to sell, not only from the stage, but sell and, barrage you in the back of the room and try to get you sales as well. Some things that come to mind are real estate type of conferences or those one-day sales events. So back of the room sales, you can do it in a wonderful way where you're not feeling pushy to your audience. And one way I suggest is really giving your best content on the stage, giving them so much information that they can use for free that they say, wow, if this is your free stuff, what does your paid stuff look like? So if you're giving them value, so much value from the stage and not selling your services from the stage, and then you have your own booth in the back, you have, your help, your team member working your table in the back where they can answer questions and help bring in sales that way. That's a good way to do it. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't believe in selling from the stage, because there are a lot of people and a lot of ways that it's done, and it's done really, in a classy way. You may do that already, but I think back of the room sales is another way that you can increase your revenue. And then another way is post-event sales. So say, for instance, maybe you have a Q&A session at your event where you can tell people are wanting to learn more. You really know you have something when people are staying after the time and you're like trying to get away and they're still asking you questions. Well, that is a perfect opportunity to say, hey, now it's time to join my program. So making sure you have a high ticket or even a low ticket offer afterwards so that they can easily go online if they want to and just go ahead and sign up for your services. So some of those are ways that you can build and boost your revenue for your events.
Awesome. I love that. Yes. So it's not just based on how many people you can get in seats. It's also a lot of other opportunities that people will be interested in the sponsors. And I love the idea of having people who are similar and serving the same people, because it's not just you and your business bestie that are benefiting from that. It's the people who are like, oh, this is so great, but I don't know how to build a website. It's like, oh no, we've got you covered right over here.
Exactly.
This table will take care of you if that's where you're at. So it's really serving everybody. It's one of those win-win-win situations.
Yeah.
So what kinds of events do you most love to put on? Who are you most interested in helping create their events?
So my expertise is to help 6- and 7-figure coaches, consultants, speakers have hands-free live events. So I love the 1-day to 3-day events. I love being in person with the speakers and their teams. I love working behind the scenes. I did that a lot, of course, in my role at UCLA, where I got the opportunity to work behind the scenes all the time at all the events I was putting on. So it's really great to bring medium to large size groups together. And when I say medium, I mean like for the average coach or consultant who has a high following and maybe a 6- or 7-figure business, 50 people to 100 people, even more than that. I've hosted events up to, 1,000+ people. And so I really love those big, fantastical events. But then again, I have a heart for the retreats too. I love going on a personal retreat. So my very first event was a retreat, and I held that in Atlanta, Georgia. Several years ago, I had a really great intimate crowd of people. And when I say crowd, I mean like less than 10. And it was a wonderful experience because retreats give you the opportunity to really engage one-on-one with your audience, even though there are more than one person, in the room. So if I had my choice, it's pretty hard. I can't. I like them both for different reasons.
Some beautiful, nurturing and retreat style events.
Yeah. And then I love luxury events too. I love walking into a luxury, venue space, hotel space, or a quirky little space that has some unique touches in the room. And I love those type of spaces where people feel, not only rich in income, but rich in spirit and rich, coming into a space and feeling like, oh, they're well taken care of. Mm-hmm. So I love those type of spaces as well.
That's awesome. So I think there's probably people out there that are like, gosh, this sounds amazing. And what a treat to get to be supported. What does the supporting the leader and creating this event kind of look like? Like, what are the stages that you help them go through?
Yeah, that's such a great question, Molly, because I actually came up with a framework and in the way that I work with clients when I was coaching and the way that I work with clients now for event planning. I have this framework that actually came from my nursing career. So in nursing, there is what we call the 6 rights of medication administration. And it is sort of a systematic approach to reducing medication errors. So it's like 6 rights. You have the right patient, the right dose, the right documentation, the right time. So you're looking at the things that will help you make sure you provide the right medication to your patients, right? So when I was coaching nurses and coaching nurses and career, lifestyle, things like that, I started to see a similarity in the way I talk to nurses from client to client. And then in the event planning, I did the same thing with myself. Like I asked myself these questions. So my framework is a 6 rights framework to launching live 6-figure events. So that framework starts out with, of course, having the right mindset. So that's number one. One, you want to make sure that when you're working with an event planner, whether it be me or anybody else or yourself, you want to address all the questions and concerns that you have about hosting an event. You know, you want to make sure if you're working with someone, you write them all down and you get everything out in the open. So your coach for event planning or your team for event planning can see, you know, ahead of time what it is that you anticipate could possibly or potentially go wrong with your event. So having the right mindset, asking those important questions about event planning is key. Number 2, you have the right mindset. Now you want to get the right idea. What type of event do you want to host? So will that be a retreat? Will that be a luxury style event, 3-day event at a hotel? Will it be at a convention center? You know, what type of event do you want to hold? And so looking at the right idea, how many days do you want it to be? What do you think you can provide? Okay. And then third is the right client. Now, I think it's very important to talk about the right client because sometimes we may think, oh, well, it's just my customers that I usually sell to. Well, not necessarily. Maybe you are a 6 or 7-figure coach and you have a really, really engaged community, but now you want to bring in newbies to your community. So your event could be tailored specifically to new people coming into your business as opposed to the people who are already in your business. So maybe you just want to host an event that introduces your business to a new group of people. So that's a typically different client than what you're used to working with. So making sure you have the right client, then the right service, right? What are you selling at your event? What is it that you're going to provide? What is the content that you're going to give to your clients? What are the outcomes that you want them to see? So that's very important. Next, right support. Who's on your team? You know, who's on your team to help you? Do you have vendors? Do you have contractors, videographers, photographers? Do you have caterers? Who's on your right team? Who's the right team? Who's the right support? And then last but not least is implementation, making sure all of those first 5 steps are in order, and then you're implementing those things that you have in order in the right way possible. And so that's my 6 rights framework.
Amazing. I love that. I feel like it covers all the bases and paying attention to, what the pieces of the puzzle are, what's going to come up to stop you, and what you're most excited of bringing forward and serving your people with. I love that. It's amazing. And and all those pieces I think are also, I will just say, it's really valuable to have somebody supporting you with answering those questions, because it can get it's easy to get stuck in the weeds when something really big is calling you forward, wanting to be created, and have somebody holding your hand through those steps and asking you the right questions at the right time, and like helping you support yourself with the mindset and also with the production of the actual event is hugely valuable. It's really helpful to have somebody to bounce those ideas off of and give you feedback and ask you the right questions along the way. So I think that's an amazing service that you're offering.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So what are the best ways for people to get a hold of you and find out more?
Yeah. So if you're interested in having someone support you in your event planning needs, you can just go to my website, eventsecretsblueprint.com, and you can book a call there right on my homepage. And I would love to talk to you and hear your strategy of what you're thinking about in planning your event. And then we can discuss some ways that we can make that event really magical, really transformational for you and your clients.
Yeah. Yeah, transformational is a key word there too. I think it's a buzzword right now, but it's also really important because there's such magic that can happen when you get a bunch of people in a room together. You are the maestro conducting that experience, and you can make it as like hugely transformational as you want, as long as you plan how that's going to go in advance. Yeah, it's amazing.
And that's part of actually some of the benefits of hosting your own live event, building your authority, building yourself as a thought leader on a stage, and, building your community, getting better outcomes for your clients, and boosting your revenue and profits. So
yeah, totally. And strategizing ways that people get to connect with each other through that process and connect to you. It's awesome. Very cool. So I think you've shared a lot of amazing wisdom already. Is there any last words of wisdom you want to leave people with?
The one piece of advice I always give everyone in any type of work I've been doing is start before you're ready.
Start before you're ready, especially when it comes to events. I will say you can talk yourself out of it a lot.
Right. Start before you're ready. Hit publish on 80%. That's what I always say.
And go for it. Definitely. Very important. Awesome. So I just wanted to mention this because as of the time that we're recording this, I actually just yesterday finished a website that if people are going to go work with Marsha, or you're thinking about leading your events and this episode inspired you, you're going to maybe want to check this out. It's called soulretreathub.com, SOUL, soul like your spirit. And it is a place, it's going to be a place, it's coming soon. But right now we're collecting information from retreat venues and hosts, retreat leaders like yourselves, and also retreat participants. What you've got, what you're looking for, where you want to connect, who you want to connect with. And we're going to create sort of a networking platform for participants to find what retreats are going on, for retreat venues to find hosts or leaders, and vice versa. So if you're thinking about leading an event, you want to know about all the places you could do it, or if you have a place to host events and you're looking for people to come and lead amazing retreats there, that website is up, soulretreathub.com. I highly recommend checking that out. And right now it's just intake form, so we can gather the information and then put it all together. But I think it's going to be a really fun thing for people to use as a resource for more events, more transformation, more healing, more light to be spread across the world. And I love that Marsha and I connected right as this idea was coming to life, because it feels like very symbiotic, like something we're going to get to collaborate on, which is really cool.
And it was so exciting to hear about your ideas when you were first, telling me about it. So I couldn't wait to hear about it. So
super fun.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for doing the work that you're doing as a fellow leader, event person. I'm really grateful that you're out there helping more of this kind of event and happening happen. It's important that people get the support that they need so that these dreams can actualize. If you see yourself on stage, get support to get there sooner. If you see yourself like holding the energy for a large group of people for multiple days, you don't have to hold yourself through the journey to get there. So lean into the support, lean into the framework, lean into the backup that can allow you to hold that space while also being held and supported, because it's easier to do that more often when you're not depleting your own bandwidth to make it happen every time. So hugely valuable. Thank you so much, Marsha, for being on the show.
Thanks, Molly. It was such a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. And thank you everyone out there for listening. Whatever happens, keep asking big questions and taking bold action, because you are here for a reason. Bye.